So in this session, we're going to be looking at the very basics of DevOps. So this is our first lesson in DevOps, and we're going to look at what DevOps engineering is all about. All right, so let's get started. So normally before I start teaching any course, I want to know what the motivation is. So basically, if for some people the motivation will be the fact that they want to change jobs, and for some people it will be the fact that they would want to get some kind of remuneration as a reward. And so I just decided to do a little bit of research. It may not be extensive, but at least this is kind of an average of some of the amounts that people make within the DevOps roles. So some people are making around these figures that you see on your screen. And so if for you, the motivation is making sure that, say you change your life or maybe you get some kind of money or something, then this is how much you could be making as a DevOps engineer, and maybe more, probably more. Once we go along, you understand what I mean. So yes, the first one is just in dollars. So that's like mostly in the US, which is where the biggest market share is. Also, they have other countries like in India, which is also the currency is in rupees. So people are making as much as that. And then in the UK, people are also making as much as this. And the US, the average is what we have on our screen now. So countries like Canada and Germany are also having a lot of DevOps roles. So if for you, the motivation is money, then this is how much roughly you could be making or more in the DevOps space. So let's just start with something basic. So when we talk about DevOps, the problem is that DevOps didn't just appear from thin air. DevOps came from somewhere, but before DevOps, there was something that was existing, and so we'll clearly look at what existed before DevOps. So before DevOps, we have programmers, developers. So the job of developers is to develop softwares. So there was the software development, which is the process of developing like a software or an application. So in software development, we have various roles that are attached to the, say, the cycle. So we have like programmers, we have like testers, we have UI UX person, we have say we'll say different aspects of softwares. So we have maybe front end or back end, or maybe say server side person or database admin or something. So we had different roles, and all these people come together to build a software that can be used by any person in a company. So these various roles make up the software development industry. But because the software development has various roles and various activities that go into it, there are also various stages that comes with the software development cycle. And for the software development cycle, we have what we call the SDLC. So normally people say software development life cycle. And with the software development life cycle, these are the various stages that any software would undergo before it becomes like a software. So normally in the real world, assuming you're working in a company that develops softwares, the first thing will be that there should be a need for a software. So basically, sometimes in a say a software company, they don't really even know what they want. All they know is that they have a challenge and they need a software that could help them solve that issue. So this is where the first stage comes in, which is referred to as the requirements gathering and analysis. So basically, they get to understand the problem at hand and also analyze how the needs for a software. Then after that, once they think about it and they come up with some pointers and say, okay, we think we need a software that should be able to do this or do that. They come up with what we call a design. So the design is where they brainstorm to come up with not just the looks of the software, but also the architecture of the software. So whether we need a database, whether we need a front end, how is it connected? Are we connected in one server, and all those things go into the design. Once they've done with the design, it is the job of the programmers or the developers to go in and then do implementation. So basically, when we talk about implementation, we're talking about a stage where the developers or programmers will sit down and actually do the coding, um, considering the design that has been done by the design team. So once the program has been built, the next thing that happens is that the program is supposed to be conforming to the requirement. So we use what we call the test case against the user stories and use case scenarios. So they compare what we wanted to do and the things that we've done and see whether or not they meet the requirement. So the development team build the software, they test it, and also we have people who are designated as software testers who also test it. And once the software testers test the software, it is just moved into the next stage, which is referred to as the development stage. So the deployment stage. And in the deployment stage, this is where the software is given out to the end users to use. And once they're using it, certain things may come up. Maybe some parts of the software may not be working the way they want it, or maybe they would want some extension of features on our software. And so we go into a cycle called the maintenance, where all the other things that we need to be doing would, or the new features we want to add to it will be thought about, and then we'll go back through that cycle again. So at every point in time, there's this cycle. It keeps going on and on forever. But the beauty about software development is the fact that it's not just a one-man job. So there's always going to be a split, especially if you're working on a big software. But that could also be a challenge.